Hey, I'm Jonathan, and I live in London, England.
Hey, I'm Jeff, and I live in Perth, Australia.
Together, we are Ekko and Sidetrack.
We produce music that sounds like this.
And this.
And even this. This podcast is about music, creativity, and everything in between the giant space that separates us.
Welcome to A Band Apart with Ekko and Sidetrack. Today's episode of A Band Apart with Ekko and Sidetrack is brought to you by new music from us. What's So Not, featuring the DMAs, The Change, the Ekko and Sidetrack drum and bass remix, is out everywhere now. Go stream it, go download it at Beatport or where you purchase your music from. Go enjoy it, add it to your playlist, tell your friends, tell your family. Maybe it's a good song to introduce your lover to drum and bass if they don't already like it. Or perhaps you want to show it to your parents to show them what you do on the weekend. Jeff and I have had a blast making the tune, and we'll go into that process a bit more on next week's episode. But this week, we're getting a bit more serious. This is a podcast we recorded on Tuesday night, I think, and it's a bit serious. The first half of it is a bit serious. Jeff and I sometimes argue and have heated discussions, and this is a podcast we recorded directly after we've had a serious discussion. I think we both feel it's pretty important to share these moments and the kind of truth about being in Ekko and Sidetrack. And if you've listened to all these podcasts so far, you've clearly enjoyed what we do and the discussions we have. So we thought we'd also share this side of it. I think we cover some pretty interesting ground, and it really shows that this podcast is quite cathartic for both of us. I hope you enjoyed. It's odd speaking by yourself. I feel like I'm rambling. Now, let's get on with the cast. I don't really want to record this podcast at all. In fact, I would prefer not to record it, but we are going to record it.
Briefly explain why you don't want to record it.
Jeff and I have just spent the last 40 minutes.
40 minutes.
Having a heated discussion, an argument.
About, roughly speaking, absolutely nothing, and we came to the same conclusion in 40 minutes that we could have in 5. I'm not to start the conversation again, but it's interesting to see
But do you just see how that is judging the last 40 minutes of conversation we've had instead of just going, that was the conversation?
Okay.
Instead of just having the conversation and being, that's the conversation, you go, we just wasted 40 minutes. Like, let's just try not to judge the conversation we've had because we move forward.
It's a good point. I suppose I'll just go on record and say I'm quite frustrated, so maybe I just want to put a judgment call on it. But
we're going to go ahead and do it because that's what we do. And someone told me recently they really appreciate the podcast because they don't hear in her life, she doesn't hear men talk openly about their feelings and are as candid as we are on the podcast. So I think people that listen to it appreciate that to some extent.
Do you reckon you can hear, like, in the voice? Do you reckon in the recorded voice, do you think you could have turned on the podcast and just talked the same way you're talking now and people would have not picked up on the energy between us?
No.
Yeah, it's like baked into the voice. It's like listening to someone when they're lying down. You're like, ever call someone on the phone and they're like, I know you're still in bed, you fuck.
Yeah, you can tell people are fucking sitting on their stomach.
Yeah, lying down or not paying attention. It's thing. Yeah. But yes, we did have a lively discussion, and sometimes these things happen, and they often happen in opportune moments.
I think they also happen when we don't cross paths. It's one thing that's it's interesting. When we were living apart, some frustration happened because we were definitely spending less time together, but it's like we had pockets of moments to talk. So it was like, all right, we're going to talk, would happily talk for an hour maybe every second day and talk on Slack. And it would feel like we were actually kind of getting more stuff said between us because we would be like, oh, we've only got an hour.
And also, you've got somewhere else to be. I've got somewhere else to be. We can't just be in each other's pockets all the time. Like, hey, this, hey, that.
But so,
hey,
like,
this.
But
hey,
so
hey,
when
hey.
so when we were separate, it was like someone being in prison and someone being out of prison, and you're like, you got this visitation, you got an hour a day. Cool, I'm going to talk to you for that hour. But now we live in the same place, and at the moment we're living in the same house for most of the time. Suddenly, the crossover times are a lot less, but that communication on other on other channels doesn't happen as much.
Yeah, I agree. And the crossover time is a lot more, and it's a lot more fucking time between places. It's like, I'm walking out the door. Can we talk about that important thing? I'm doing something else, but can we have this discussion? Rather than being like, we need to have this important discussion. It's like everything is done in a transient manner. And that makes me frustrated because it's a frustrating thing. It's a very frustrating way to speak to anyone.
It is, but sometimes that's the only way you can speak to people. And a surefire way to make that small amount of time we have not productive is to talk about how annoying it is that we only have that small amount of time to talk.
But we have more time.
Sometimes we don't. Because it feels to me like often we kind of fall into these discussions about how instead of talking about the actual thing, the problem or the issue or the crux of it, you know, if we got 5 minutes and we have an issue, we have a problem and we have to solve it and then have an execution. Mm-hmm. Instead of just going, we got 5 minutes, we do it. We go, we got 5 minutes. 5 minutes isn't enough time to do this. Well, we've only got 5 minutes. Yeah, but and then we get into this discussion about how little time we have, and we start arguing. Instead of trying to solve the problem, we start arguing about the fact that there's a problem in the first place, and it suddenly becomes this unsolvable thing.
We'd certainly be good/shit contestants on The Amazing Race.
Oh my God, I think they should do an Amazing Race of semi-dysfunctional people. I wouldn't even call us dysfunctional because I think it's a miracle that I don't think it's a miracle. I think we do a lot of work, and our relationship is pretty goddamn strong for brothers that work together and have worked together for so long. And I think it's quite rare.
All the people they choose for those shows have some sort of dysfunction or some sort of thing that's going to lead to either fireworks or stresses. Otherwise, if they just chose people that got on really well,
I guess that's true.
There's no fucking TV to it.
They're not
they need to be able to
teams that are ready travelers together.
No, they need to be able to be produced. They need to be able to extract a story out of someone. But back to what you're saying about quality time together. It's almost like a marriage. It's like we're so good on holiday when we can give each other lots of space and we can spend time with each other and everything's great. But then when you come back and you're like, I only see her, him, whatever, after work and I'm tired and she's tired and then she just goes off and I've got to do that thing and then we talk for 5 minutes at the end of the night and I'm grumpy so I roll over and no one has sex and we get up in the morning and I have to go to work early and it's, it's passing ships in the night. It's that transient conversation. Priorities need to be put on not just important conversations, but also meandering fucking nothing conversations. Because that's when lots of stuff happens as well. And it seems like perhaps recently, even just the last 2 days, we haven't had enough quality time crossover Literally, this is the first time we've been in the same place focused on having a conversation.
Since Saturday.
Yeah. And that might not seem like a long time, but there's a few things we're working on, so it kind of does, or a few things we need to communicate. I need to get better at using Slack again. I will certainly take that on. That's something that's come up in my mind for the last 2 days. But it's an interesting thing to think about, the way we do communicate with everyone, like that timely conversations or those transient conversations. Like, sometimes I don't want people to talk to me. I'm like, this is not something that needs discussion. I want silence. I'm just doing this thing. And it's like, I'd prefer if you pretended I just wasn't here. Or sometimes things that don't need to be really discussed, I want to talk about, because it's like, talking to think.
Yeah, I think it's important to recognize and verbalize when you want to talk and when you don't want to talk in a combative way. I know when I haven't wanted to talk, usually it's been when I'm annoyed or I'm just not in the mood. And I kind of find that I've said, and this is with partners and probably family as well, you and mum, dad, that I've kind of gone, sorry, I'm not interested in talking right now. And then that sparked oh, well, someone's not in a good mood comment, or like that's sparked
You don't live in a 90s sitcom.
No, but I mean, that's just an example. That's the air of what I get back instead of no worries, come back when you're okay. Like there seems to always be a response. There's always like a response that usually frustrates you more. And I think that's kind of, again, that's like down to boundaries and space.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's really healthy to be able to ask in those scenarios for space and people to give you that space.
I can't remember who said it, but I read it at one of my mates' weddings. And the quote is that your partner is the guardian of your solitude.
It's a beautiful quote.
Yeah, it's something I really like, as though they know your space, you know their space, and you can protect their space for them. Wait.
Shield them. I think of it as like shielding them and understanding that they need to be alone and understanding that it's got nothing to do with you.
Yeah, and I don't even think it means shielding. Like, it's not like protecting them from the outside world. It's just like, I know I'm a bit of a gatekeeper to that space, so I'm just going to not even go near the gate. Like, you don't have to be like, I'm giving you space.
Yeah.
But you can just be like, I know that we have the closest bond, and I'm just going to be I can see you need space, so I'm going to, allow it.
I think it's also trust and security and knowing that the other person isn't doing something there's no subtext to that solitude.
Yeah, like the thing is like, what's wrong?
Yeah.
I'm fine. You're not.
Yeah.
Versus what's wrong? I just need 20 minutes by myself.
Yeah.
Is it anything to do with me? Perhaps, but it's not going to, whatever it is not going to be resolved right now.
And maybe I can come back I'd like to come back and talk to you about it, but I need 5 minutes.
Or maybe it's not even going to be a thing. Maybe I just need to go away and just like realize to myself that it's not a thing.
Yeah. And yeah, I think it is really important to recognize those moments.
And they're fucking hard to recognize.
Yeah, they are, but I think you can kind of bake them into your day to a certain extent if you. I think they become more and more needed when you aren't having prioritizing the alone time.
I had a shit day today.
Yep.
And I went to the gym for an hour afterwards thinking it would get me out of some sort of funk, and it kind of didn't help. And
Was it a good workout?
Yeah. It was.
And you felt like you got
I don't know,
pump?
there was it was a little bit. It was like I went on Sunday, so I had yesterday off. So yeah, it was like, not typically on a Tuesday I'll do like, I won't focus on anything too hard. I'll do like 3 sets of 3 rounds of 3 sets of 3 things.
And you do it's like kettlebell stuff and
Kettlebell things like, like today it was like incline bench, then into kettlebell squats, and then like sit-ups, and then like chin-ups, some kettlebell stuff, and then some shoulder, bicep, it varied. And I thought, I felt okay. I was like, it was okay. And then I just managed to walk in the door at home and just be like, fucking, today was fucking annoying. I even had a quiet conversation with mum about it, and that seemed okay. And then just everything just annoyed me. So I did what I needed to do. I thought I did what I needed to do. And actually, I just needed more space. I would have preferred to have said, I'm not going to eat dinner with you guys tonight. I'm just going to go straight to the studio.
yeah.
I'm not going to sit around and do this. I'm not, but I didn't, because I was like, no, I just be calm, whatever. And but I had to sit there, and I was still in a place, but I just didn't participate much in the conversation. And so, yes, it's a perfect example. Like, I tried to bake it into my day, knowing that my day was shit. I'm like, I'm going to prioritize myself. I'm going to go to the fucking gym. But sometimes it still doesn't work. Sometimes you need more than you think you do. And it's important to realize that, so you take it. Because otherwise, you're basically like dropping the threshold momentarily, and you potentially could blow up at someone later because you haven't taken enough time for yourself. Because you haven't recognized it, because you've believed that it wasn't important, because in some weird way you're like, I'll be fine. It will be fine. But really, you're just prolonging the inevitable, probably. Sometimes it fucks me off that we have to come up here and record a podcast. Not because I don't love having these conversations with you, but because sometimes, and I'm not sure if this might get edited out, but sometimes I'm like, I'm not in the mood at the moment, and I kind of have to work my way into that mood. And it's like hard at times. I mean, it's harder. It's easy. It's really easy at times, but there are some times where I find it difficult, and I don't have the kind of you see actors that can like just turn it on in a very actorly way, just like return to the scene kind of thing. And like some people could look at that and be like, that's great. It's like, yeah, he's really good at faking it. I kind of can't. I'm sure my girlfriend would probably say that's a trait of the Pisces. But yeah, like you wear your emotions kind of on your face. And sometimes I do struggle with that stuff. But I feel better talking about it. I feel better talking with you now, and it's it's always helpful. It's just fucking, the world can be an extremely frustrating place, and I'm getting better at recognizing when I need to withdraw from the world, because you choose how you interact with the world. You can be like, I am going to just step out for a moment, whether it's with, people escape, you do it with all sorts of things, but, a nice way to retract back in is just, go and read a book or something, just, and then just not be asked about what was wrong. Nothing's wrong. I just don't feel fucking great. And, if I sit for 30 minutes or something, I'm going to feel less like setting everything on fire.
I think I completely agree with you of a lot of what you said. I think coming to do the podcast is one. I think the reason why a lot of people listen to this podcast is we speak a lot, quite candidly about everything, like I said before, and that I try to remind myself that this podcast isn't a radio show, and it's not like we're broadcasting publicly, but it's very much not a presented thing.
It's not a packaged clip show where we talk in 30-second blocks and then play a song. And
it's not even like the Rogan podcast where he has guests and he discusses things with the guests.
And the guest is an expert on something.
Yeah.
We just talk.
It's literally two people who are brothers who work together, have a discussion,
about
and we record it.
And we just chat about everything.
And it's literally how we feel on a Tuesday night after working.
Yeah, I suppose it's a little bit of behind the scenes as well, because someone asked me recently if we have other jobs. Sorry, I'll come back to that. Just bookmark that. I don't want to say that I don't like doing the podcast. I really like doing the podcast with you in person. It's fucking lovely. I love you. And I love the listeners. And I think what it is for me is just that, after you've been on all day, the requirement to be on can be a little bit difficult.
Yeah. And man, often before we come and do a podcast, I would like nothing more than to not talk and to just work on music or lie in bed or watch a movie or do something completely different.
Mm.
And I think it's a testament to us that we can come and do it still.
It helps in some cases. Tonight being that case.
I think it does help.
What I was going to say before is I was asked recently, I don't even know if this is interesting to bring up. I was asked recently if we do have other jobs by someone. Maybe in some sort of hope from that person that I'd say no, and that person would see that it is completely possible to, get to this level and you won't have to have a job and you'll be living, quote unquote, living your dream and living off music.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, no, both John and I, we have other jobs. We both have part-time jobs. And I think two things. One thing is that coming and recording the podcast after we have been working is no miraculous feat, but people are getting a bit of behind the scenes on what it is like in Ekko and Sidetrack. It's not, it does have its ups and downs, and it does have its, I don't know what I'm trying to say. Help me out.
It is an insight. It's truly an insight into our lives, and you get to track everything about it.
I suppose last year when I was going through a breakup, or when you were locked down, there's you can hear things, and we're just talking, and it's sometimes I remind myself, sometimes it's just me and you, and sometimes I have to be oh yeah, I'm saying something that is being recorded and could be played, but the second thing about the jobs thing is I'm reminded of what Elizabeth Gilbert wrote in Big Magic, where she said, you shouldn't put so much pressure on your quote unquote dream to make you financially stable.
Yeah.
Because that's a surefire way to fuck things up and put a lot of stress on yourself.
Yeah.
And I'm in no rush to quit my day job, so to speak. I like my job. I like who I work with. I would like to find some more hours to be in the studio. And I'm working towards that, but it's just, it can be a bit of a slow process.
I think that's a really important thing that you should move towards. And I also think, like, do you feel because we have other jobs and some of our friends don't have other jobs and they just do music, do you measure that as we've kind of not succeeding in some way at all?
No, it's not. It's not succeeding. That the moment I don't have another job will be a milestone and a bit of a waymark, like a marker, but it's not something I'm requiring to have. It's like I'll be okay when we get paid $500 for a show. I'll be okay when we get paid $1,500 for a show. I'll be okay when I can quit my job and work in the studio every day.
Because we were talking about milestones, maybe we were having a discussion 2 weeks ago, and we talked about the time when we got paid $500 for the first time. And then we talked about the time we made over $1,000. And then now we talked about some of the milestones we've hit this year. So there's quite a few that
non-monetary milestones.
Non-monetary milestones as well as monetary milestones that we are killing it. But still there's that, like, all right, what's next? Like the goalposts move.
They're
just
always
like we were
moving.
talking about with technology. I'm enjoying my iPhone 12 now, but in a year, that goalpost would be moved. And I'd be like, I need the 13. I need the next thing. Trying to reflect on where we are at the moment and what we've done and the accomplishments and what we've got coming up. It's hard when you're halfway through your day job to remember that you've also got this other thing. Or it's not hard. It's like, it's annoying and it's frustrating.
It's 2 jobs.
Yeah. It's working 2 jobs and you want to spend all of your time in one of them.
And one of them takes up 30 hours of your week, and the other one you wish took up 40 hours of your week, but you also have to have space for semi-life things and, so like, I don't know, I'd say we work 60-hour weeks most week. And I'm not looking for a fucking pat on the shoulder or some shit. It's just, it's frustrating at times. And sometimes you have moments where you do wonder what it's all for, or at its best, you think it's all amazing and an absolute dream, and at its worst, you think it's a horrible waste of time. How does it feel to have short hair, Jonathan?
What a segue. It feels good. I feel like a new man. I think, I can't remember if I said this to you, but the world is literally wider because I don't have my hair blocking some of my vision some of the time. I'm open. I'm seeing the world anew.
Wow. That's beautiful.
It's also just a change. I think change is really good. I think evolution is good. And I had long hair since 2016. For a long time.
Yeah.
And I've been talking about getting it cut for a while. And then the opportunity to go to a fantastic hairdresser that you recommend and that you use came up, and I took it, and it was time. And it's funny, you feel a weight lifted to some extent. Even like physical weight has been taken from my head.
Yes.
But there's like, maybe I've experienced somewhat of what it's like to be a woman with long hair. And now I've gone back to having short hair, and I can think about it less. But before, I would always think about how my hair looked. Do you remember when we were taking the promo photos? And I was like, my fucking hair looks wet in this photo. We can't use it. Like, my hair doesn't look good. We were talking to Carl when he was getting some photos done. We were talking about getting a stylist because you need someone looking out for your hair when you have long hair. When you got short hair, get up in the morning and do fuck all. Move it to the left, and that's it.
You can still give it a bit of love.
You can give it some love, of course, and you brush it and that kind of thing. But it's something you don't have to think about. Rather than every time if it was walking to the hairdresser the other week, it was quite windy. It was a stormy day in Perth, and I looked just in a building, in a glass building, in my reflection, and my hair was like blowing over my face, and just looked crazy. I looked like Leonardo DiCaprio
And
in
the Man from the Iron
Mask when he's got the mask on, and then they take off the mask, and he's got all hair on his face, like. And I'm like, man, it's hard to maintain.
What a nightmare that would have been, just for a moment. If you're in an iron mask, did it have eye holes?
It had eye holes and then like a little slit for a mouth.
Okay, it had eye holes and a slit for a mouth. And hair just growing in there. Like, you kind of can't put a finger in there to push it.
You can never scratch your face.
Oh, God.
Ever. Since he was like, it's one hell of a movie. Man from the Iron Mask. Man in the Iron Mask.
Man from the Iron.
That's the Man from Iron Bark, I'm thinking of. Man in the Iron Mask. Jeremy Irons. Gerard Depardieu.
It's a big one.
John Malkovich, who isn't greatly cast in my opinion.
Is he?
Feels like he did it for the money.
Is he Colonel Richelieu?
No, he's one of the...
I feel like Tim Curry should have been in it.
He's Aramis. He's one of the three Musketeers.
Ah, yes.
And then Leonardo DiCaprio is Louis.
Yes, the king.
Oh, it's such a good movie.
I haven't watched it in a long time. You loved it.
I fucking loved it, but I rewatched it like 3 years ago and was like, there's plot holes. But I loved Jeremy Irons. You know what? Let's watch it. I fucking loved that movie.
Okay.
Great movie.
But yeah, hair. You're right. Long hair is...
It's more work.
It's more work to manage, absolutely.
And that's,
respect to all the long-haired people, men and women, particularly women, because I think there's a stigma that they should have like
long hair,
long, good-looking, well-kept, well-looked after hair.
Yeah.
Like,
I quite like short hair on girls.
I like short hair on girls.
I just like hair on someone that suits them.
I agree. I love seeing a good haircut on a person that looks great, and they're like, I did doing something different or something. Like, when someone gets a haircut and like
looks
works,
good.
you're like, bang.
That's your thing. Like, keep doing that thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do it.
And it can change it changes how you feel about yourself.
Absolutely. When someone gets a bad haircut though, you're like,
What do you reckon the worst haircut you've ever had is?
When I grew my hair out from just a fucking two. I'll tell them in not chronological order. I'll say it in the shittest haircut. I think the second shittest haircut I had was when it grew out from just a normal haircut. Like, I don't know, probably something I was like, kind of short, whatever. Not not a fade or anything. This is in 2008 ish or 2007. And it just grew out, and was that 2000? Yeah, maybe 2005. Either way, who cares? I let it grow for a year and a half without cutting it, and it grew out. It was just a mop of hair, like never got cut. It probably could have been turned into something quite cool because there was a lot of bulk to it. My hair's real thick.
Is this where we went to Europe? You had long hair in Europe.
Did I?
Yeah.
Okay. Did I? No, I swear. No, it wasn't. No, I'm talking about when we got that family photo taken, and it just looks like I'm wearing a wig, and I might be a
this is
46-year-old woman.
You look like my sports teacher in primary school.
I know exactly who you're talking about. I don't know if it was that mullet-esque, but it was definitely.
But it was
bullshit.
Like it's like my hair. I mean, those of you who have seen me in real life, I've quite thin hair, and when it was long, it's like I've almost got kind of. It's quite fine,
like an angel.
Yeah, I've got angel hair. Jeff's hair is a lot thicker, and so there was this kind of natural wave to it that was quite, again, like what you said, if you had it styled and like spent some time with a blow dryer, you could have had this like great long haired look. But
it was just, I thought I'm surprised anyone had sex with me at that time. But
I've had sex with people with questionable haircut. I've had sex with people when I've had a questionable haircut and wondered the same thing. But then long hair is long hair when you're naked.
Yeah.
It's kind of like you feel very Herculean. Like I know there were some moments when my hair was long that and I was nude that I felt like
you were all that is man, very Conan the Barbarian.
Yeah. Yeah. It's annoying that you have to tie it up.
I agree. The first shittest haircut I have is when I had a like faux hawk thing.
You had a faux hawk?
Oh, it was 2003. Like it was like the mullet into mohawk thing that was, people wearing leather cuffs. I was one of them.
Kind of like it's almost like an English style.
Yeah, quite English
haircut.
People were popping their collars.
Johnny Wilkinson was the captain of the English rugby team.
Yeah, it would have been about the era. I definitely wasn't on that tip, but yeah, like I didn't pop the collar, but that was the era. Put it this way, there were a lot of things happening around that time which were really fucking questionable.
But that was your version of the 80s.
Man, we were young, physically fit, challenging logic, having shit haircuts.
No one, very few people survived like the 20s, their 20s, probably up until the last maybe 6 or 7 years. No one survived going through their 20s like nailing it the whole time.
No one does. That's kind of important to realize. No one survives their teens. Like I'm nailing it, and
I'm keeping nailing it.
Everything's cool.
And unless you're like, I say not so much in the last 6 or 7 years, as streetwear's become cooler, a bit more accessible. People probably have more money. You see teens with like wearing cool clothes they can probably continue wearing those clothes into their 20s. Whereas when we were 18, I was grasping at straws fashion-wise. I remember buying like I didn't have terrible fashion, but I was at no way aware of what was going on. You said you had a leather cuff. I had a leather studded cuff.
You were wearing a glove.
I was wearing a glove. I wore vests. Look,
I'm so glad that
you work
Facebook
out
and shit wasn't around then, because it was just a different different time.
It was a different.
And it's also, I didn't exist in a vacuum at all. I was clearly following what the fashion was at the time.
Who do you reckon was the leader
I couldn't tell you.
of the cuff?
I couldn't tell you, but people were shopping at Live, Fiasco.
Yeah.
These places that were like, it was the first. It's because you're 18 and 19 and you're like, I can go out, I can experience the wider world, not for the first time, but a bit more on your independently. And you're like, I'm going to go and spend $100 on a shirt. That reminds me, I spent $100 on a shirt today.
I'm so glad I don't think when I was 18 I bought into. I think that a lot of your friends were already kind of working in the city and wearing like wearing leather shoes out.
Remember? Oh no, just like we
had to wear leather shoes.
My friends are just more fashionable than your friends.
No, but not fashionable. Like
on that kind of fashion. A bit more. We were like a bit more trendy as well. Like as in like following the trends. As in like things popped off and then like
collars were. Up.
And then you're like, things happened, and then you're like, 6 months later, you're like.
But I was on a different.
You were a different age.
But when I was 18, I was also more into like tight jeans, skate. I was more in like wear Vans.
You were a bit more. You were more emo.
Yeah, like I'm not going to go to a club if I have to wear shoes.
Emo missed me. I went metrosexual. That was like the first time.
That's right.
That term was thrown around.
Oh, fuck, I haven't heard that term in so long.
No one has. It's not fucking. It was a
metrosexual. It was. What was it like? Basically, straight guys suddenly caring about their appearance and would just be more interested in fashion.
And
Is that?
It was like a creation by a PR company. Well, yeah, essentially it was that. It's the era of Queer Eye for a Straight Guy. It was the, guys can, pay $300 for jeans. Subi jeans existed.
Flares were back.
Were they?
Yeah, I believe.
I'm not
Slight
sure.
flares were back with a frayed bottom and tight, kind of tight.
For guys
maybe
or girls?
bootleg. For both. For guys.
Jet was cool.
Yeah.
People were making mistakes and ripping off the Beatles left, right, and center. It was
the noughties.
It
was also
chaos.
Just, like, yeah.
How the fuck did we start to? Haircuts. Yeah. But yeah, that was. I'm sure I could probably dig up a photo of that, but I'd rather not.
I reckon. I can think of a photo. You and I are in London. We're at a foam party.
But that's 2008, man. I'm talking like 2004. Like, I would be wearing a semi-tight.
Oh, yeah.
Like, maybe I definitely owned a pink polo.
Yeah.
Definitely wasn't anywhere near the shape I am now. Like,
yeah.
And just like.
Yeah. Sorry, I thought this is a bit later. I'm still in school. I'm wearing like Bonds hoodies, black Bonds hoodies and black skinny leg jeans and Vans. And yeah. Do you remember what you were thinking when you had to get someone to tie the leather wrist strap?
Everyone was wearing cuffs, man.
I know everyone was wearing cuffs.
And I could do it myself, but yeah, if someone could help you out. But like, that's what you'd see. You'd be at some bar, and that's like just what the fashion was. When the fashion is reflected back to you, everything's fine. But it's when you're existing in a vacuum and you're like, hold on a second, am I the last person here that's still wearing this thing? God damn it, I missed it. And that's why it's risky to do these things. And people take less risks now because of the internet. It's like way easier to dress like everyone else.
I can't
man, this is like, you'd see it in a magazine and you're like, I'm going to buy that thing and try and look like that. And you're like,
yeah, absolutely.
Man, bunch of mine, and we'd all walk into the bar together and we'd have similar fucking haircuts and we'd,
go to the lady.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And then go to like maybe Subiaco.
Yeah. And you'd buy pills and then I'd go to a fucking drum and bass show.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, man, I could tell you a million fashion things that were different about that phase. I'm glad it happened, but like, no one gets out alive from that shit.
No.
People make mistakes.
Yeah. Yeah. There's definitely some photos of me that I'm not too proud of. I don't know if I ever went. I don't think I was ever caught by the metrosexual wave.
Because you would have been, by the time you turned 18, it would have crested and rolled back into the sea, and there would have been something else that was happening.
The thing that I was kind of cool maybe was like Dada and like Wu-Tang, and like that was the beginning of like streetwear stuff. It used to be like skate, surfwear, skatewear, and then like
no, there was always
Dada.
Yeah, there's always that stuff existing.
But like I'm talking about when I was like 17, 18, I had friends that would wear like Adidas track pants and like a
I'm wearing a pair of Adidas track pants right now. It's interesting how it's
silver, like, but like real baggy and like
the pops on the sides and stuff like that.
Yeah. That was kind of the thing that maybe was a bit cooler when I was 18 that I saw and was like, I'm not into that.
But again, it comes back to that, like, I don't think you and your mates you guys were going to drum and bass shows and other things, but you weren't going out to like clubs that required you to have leather shoes and like a selection of collared shirts.
No, I was a late adopter to collared shirts. I think.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And if you imagine just lining up like 25 photos over 12 and a half years or 15 years and just like what you're wearing at a snapshot of those times, and you just look back and be like, what the fuck? I'd also look back and be like, man, where's that jumper? I want that jumper back.
Yeah.
Or like, why didn't I just buy new jeans? What the fuck was I thinking? I've seen a photo of me in 2008 and like my jeans are ripped at the bottom and like half hanging over my shoes. It looks like I'm wearing flares. And I'm like, what is happening there? I'm wearing a pair of Etnies.
Yeah.
And like, the shame. But it all added up to who we are now.
Exactly.
And I can laugh about it now because I was dead serious at the time.
Yeah.
What do you think the shittest fashion choice you've made where you've done it and you've regretted it? And you've been like, because all these things we were talking about are like, we're in it. So that's what we were doing. And you didn't think it was bad at the time. You thought it was part of the thing. And you can look back now and go like, wow, 20 years ago or whatever, I dressed a certain way. But like we've all done something where we've stepped out of the house and we're in the cab or we're in the car and you're just like, I've made a huge mistake.
I reckon when I might be, this is what I seem to remember. I was still wearing vests, woolen vests, well into like 18, 19, 20, 21. And when I would go to a drum and bass gig, I'd like try to dress a bit darker, but even I stood out.
I remember you wearing those like patterned vests.
Yeah, like a diamond. It was like grey,
like knitted,
knitted with like purple diamonds,
and you were big on the cardigan tip as well.
I was big on the cardigan tip. I want to get back into cardigans. I want to get into cardigans and kimonos. Kimonos. Sorry.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, not the dragon. Fuck that.
So you reckon? Do you remember any particular time?
Yeah, probably wearing a long sleeve shirt with the button open and a vest. And the long sleeve shirt, I'm pretty sure I used to have one with like little diamonds on it or like little kind of crowns or something like that. And then I would have worn a vest with that shirt out
So you're wearing a collared shirt with the vest over the top.
Yeah, long sleeve collared shirt.
Long sleeve collared shirt.
Kind of like Lee. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a look, wasn't it?
And like, yeah, the vests. It's
The vest.
well, the woolen
That's
vest.
a fucking era of your life.
The woolen vest for me, because that seemed like a continuation of my 2 t-shirt stage in my teens.
Yeah, the long sleeve with the short sleeve over the top.
Yeah, I mean, that's like
Emo.
100% Travis Barker.
Yeah.
Blink-182, long 3/4 length shorts, high socks.
I definitely wore some shorts that were like
Oh yeah,
shorts that were long.
yeah.
They don't have a knee in them, but
They're just pants.
they're basically pants.
They're short pants,
Yeah.
and they're kind of coming back now
Or
to some extent. I like
not
that
the
baggy,
long, not the
not
long,
like not Dickies.
not the long
style.
shorts.
No, but I mean like baggy things that are 3/4.
Not 3/4.
Yeah, they're back, baby.
3/4 pants.
Yeah, but they're way baggier, and like they're almost like the bottoms of like a Japanese traditional garb. They're like got that kind of like
Billow.
yeah, like the billowing out.
I like to see where you're looking for your fashion, but yeah, all right.
But you know, yeah, fashion changes. We've all made mistakes.
We have. Thanks for having a conversation with you, Jonathan. I'm glad we recorded this podcast, and I'm glad you, dear listener, have decided to listen to it. We really appreciate you. And if you appreciate us, please feel free to leave a short review on iTunes or tell your friends or whatever you like. Because, yeah, doing this podcast is fun, contrary to what I may have said earlier in the podcast. It is genuinely fun, and we do genuinely love doing it. Sometimes it's more difficult than others because of what we're going through at the time, but it's always cathartic.
Yeah, it is. It always helps.
So yeah, if you enjoy it, share it with your friends.
Thanks for having the conversation with me, buddy. I'm glad we didn't bail on it and then we recorded it. So well done.
Big ups yourself. I love you.
I love you too.
Thank you.
Farewell. Thanks for listening to this week's podcast. Make sure you subscribe to us on your podcast app and keep up to date with all new episodes. They're going to be coming out once a week. We are Ekko and Sidetrack on Facebook and Instagram. On Twitter, we are Ekko Sidetrack. Go listen to our music on Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, YouTube, or wherever your ears consume happiness. Lots of love, people.